All right, this is what we're going to be making today. It's called a French rolling pin. It's different from an American rolling pin. Okay, I don't know if you could read that, but French rolling pins are generally longer and tapered at the ends. They do not have handles. Any of these examples that Rich Gibbs put in the newsletter, you could make those in the lead class if you wanted to today. But I'm going to make the classic French rolling pin. They're considered easier to use for inexperienced cooks because you go back and forth, and apparently that prevents the dough from stretching and cracking or tearing. So anyways, that's what we're going with. All right, next slide. Okay, so a French rolling pin, you can see it in action there. I'm defining 5 or 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 quantities. The overall length, the length of the flat area in the middle, and the maximum diameter, which is at the center, and the minimum diameter at the ends. So here's a next slide. I'm going to go through some examples of what I found on the internet. Okay, so the top one, most of these are 20 inches long, 20, 19, 8, 21 inches. The flat area you see in the top one is about 6 inches on each side of center. You see the maximum diameter, minimum diameter are listed there, 1 3/4 versus 1. The next one down has a little bit shorter flat area, and which is the same as saying it has more taper, and it's skinnier. Instead of 1 3/4, it's only 1 and a little bit less than a half. The green one is this one that I made today as practice. I'm going to get back to that in a minute. It also has a bigger taper. Next one down has, you can see the minimum diameter is very small, so it's more pointy. It has pointy ends. Now, some people might not want 20 inches long for a rolling pin if it doesn't fit in their drawers. So there are some options where you could make a short one, 15 inches or so. You'll have that choice when you make these today. The next one, 2.5 inches diameter. That's quite fat compared to the ones I've seen. And the next one is also kind of fat, but longer, 21 inches instead of 18. And the last one has a very short flat area, meaning most of it's tapered. So when you think of these, you see all these different people have tried these. So let me put them all, let me show you what these look like one by one. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, here's 2 of them. The top one, 20 inches long, 1 3/4 in the middle, and the ends are squared off. Okay, I don't really like that for just aesthetic reasons. The next one, even fatter. The bottom one there, even fatter, and it has a very short flat area. Okay, next slide. This is the fattest one of all, 2.5 inches, and very short taper. Next one is only 15 inches long. Next slide. Okay, this one here, this is marketed by a company called Earlywood Designs, and they, on their website, they talk about, they went through 8 or 9 different designs working with this company, Milk Street Kitchen. I don't know, I watched that cooking show, it's on public television, and the main guy from Milk Street blessed this design as the best. So this is the one I chose, okay, to make. Next slide. This is the one with the pointy ends. The company here, Vermont Rolling Pin Company, they talk up this design as being easier to use. Who's to say? You'd have to make a bunch of them and try them yourself.
What's the end size on those, Mike?
0.4 inches on the end.
Less than a half.
Yeah. Okay, next one. So this is all of them at the same time, roughly the same magnification. And if you ask me, the one that's most pleasing to look at is the lower left corner. I just think it looks most, I don't know, smoothest curves, most rounded. So I like that one. Even the fact that it was blessed by Milk Street Kitchen, I just like the way it looks anyways. So we're going to stick with that one today. All right, that's it for the slides. Okay, this is a piece of tiger maple, I guess he called it. This is donated from the Woodpeckers Club. It's already round. It was this long. I cut it to 21 inches to make a 20-inch tape pin. I've got an 18-inch blank left over for someone who wants a slightly shorter one. I found the center, and I marked it with, or I pounded in my dead center, drive center. Okay, it's in there good. Now you see, what I view this project is excellent for practice. How do you get a good smooth cut with a spindle gouge or on a spindle? I'm going to show you the tools that you have the choice of. Okay. Standard one, spindle roughing gouge. There, okay. So my bevel angle is roughly the same as like 50 degrees or 45 degrees perhaps. I think if I had to do it again, I might go for a 35-degree angle, like the same as my spindle gouges. Michael Hasseluk, his spindle roughing gouge showed the same more acute angle, and I think you could get a slightly smoother finish with that. Now I use this in several ways. I use it straight on like this. This is not a very good, it's a good roughing cut, but it doesn't give you a smooth surface. I can turn it this way. So I move the handle, I rotate the handle between 0 and 45 degrees. And I also rotate the flute over. So I'm going to show you a case where I move it over a little bit and tilt it a little bit, and then I move it over more and I tilt it more, okay? And of those three cuts, this one where it's tilted more and rotated more gets the smoothest cut. And finally, you could turn it all the way over to 90 degree, fully closed gouge, and you could sort of peel almost like a skew, okay? So I'll show you that one too. You can also use a skew chisel. I'm not an expert in a skew. In fact, I can only use a skew. I'm only comfortable using a skew going from the tailstock towards the headstock. I can't do it this way reliably, so I have to practice more on that, and you won't see me practice today. Again, you could use this two ways. You could come up, you're rubbing the bevel, you bring up the handle until it starts cutting, and it's called a peeling cut, like this. Okay? That is not as smooth as if you turn it and you cut at with the tool tilted 45 degrees. You can get a shearing cut. That's sometimes called a slicing cut, and that's going to be a very smooth cut. The other one I use is this tool here. This is called a Spindle Master. This I bought from Sorby, and it's supposed to be an approximate or a replacement for the skew that gives you a smooth cut like the skew, but without catching. And I showed an example of that in a minute. I'll try that. And finally, the Bedan. This is just a straight 55-degree taper. You can use this with the bevel down, or the French use it with the bevel up. And anyways, I find this is best for roughing, but not necessarily for smooth cuts. So this, I'm going to send this around. Okay, you'll see here, I'm going to show on this skew slicing cut, a skew peel, the Spindle Master, 3 different roughing gouges with the handle in different positions and the flute in different positions. 4 different choices. And then 2 with the Bedan, bevel up and bevel down. If you look at these, I think the best one is the slicing cut with the skew, and the Spindle Master are the smoothest. Now, the rest of these, you'll see some degree of roughness, even a little bit of tear out. And I think I could play with that more, resharpen the tools, do something like that. But basically, with practice, I think you could improve with all these different ones. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to get this round. Use the roughing gouge for that. Okay, now with the spindle, you can turn faster. See, it's a little bit out of round. The other thing is you try to set yourself up so that you're moving your body and not your arms. So the handle of the tool, I have tried to embed that in my stomach. Okay, so that is handle 45 degrees. Flue tilted over just to like maybe 11 o'clock or so. You do that in both directions. All I'm trying to do is get this round. Now the other thing, if you're making this, you want to make sure, now you see, this is still almost 3 inches in diameter, and I'm going to end up going down to 1 3/4 or 2. So there's no real concern about wasting wood at this time. So you could practice this quite a bit. Practice your different cuts. You can see that this, the figure in the wood is showing up in this cut. So I'm getting some tear out in every one of the tiger stripes. So I made this storyboard. Okay, this is a 20-inch. The example I chose is a 20-inch long tape of rolling pin, and you see I have a 21-inch blank, so that means I could center this right here, put it here and here. I wonder. Yeah, okay. Now, so this is just a piece of thin wood that I had laying around. You could probably use cardboard. All right, so broke my pencil. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define the diameters. This is the center thing here is supposed to be 1.4 if I remember right. 1.4. So I'm setting this at 1.5. It'll give me a little bit of margin for error. All right. Still anchor bevel cut, ABC, anchoring the tool on the tool rest, raising the handle till it cuts. Make it a little bit wider. Not even close. Uh-oh, I went too far. Wow. I was too rushed. All right. slow this down a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to reduce a lot of this wood, just get it out of the way. This tool rest is dinged up a little bit. And if you wanted to get really smooth, you should sand this tool rest 100 grit, 150 grit, and wax it with paraffin wax. And your chances of getting a smooth surface go way up. So let me just remove some wood here. Now, if I was doing this slowly, I would be stopping. I would be trying different things, experimenting to see what's getting the smoothest cut. There's too much stuff coming up into my face. Let me just show you what a Badan could do. To me, this is faster. Plus, I save my roughing gouges cutting edge for the more delicate cuts. Okay, so I was pushing the tool hard because this is hard maple. I was pushing the tool hard because I wanted to get rid of wood as fast as possible. And the cut quality is relatively poor. So now I'm going to mark some things and I'm going to try to concentrate on getting a smooth surface. Okay, so this is the center. This specific design has an 8-inch flat area, so plus or minus 4. And double, yeah. Of course, you could use a ruler if you don't have a template. I find the template, it's easier to measure things on a piece of flat wood. All right, so now I'm going to concentrate from here to here to get this as flat as possible, constant diameter as possible. So before you saw my hand, I was on top. A better way to make sure things are flat is you line up the tool rest so that it's parallel to the bed of the lathe. And you put your finger here to sort of guide the tool. I'm going slower now. Very fine shavings. I'm inspecting the cut, much finer quality. There's still a little bit of tear out. It's always in these, in the figure. The curly part of the wood is changing the angle of, I guess it's interacting with the cutter such that I'm always getting tear out in that wood. I'm going to turn the lathe or the tool over. I'm going to increase the angle and the flute. Oh, now that's much better. There's still going to be some sanding required, but you know, I went a little bit too low when I first put the parting tool in there, so I'm going to rely on sanding a little bit more than trying to get the perfect cut off the tool. Just want to show you how a skew would work. You're going to be cutting on the lower third of the blade. Okay, I got a little bit of chatter there, but other than that, the cut is pretty smooth. Okay. I'm getting some, again, it's smooth cut, but there's an interaction with the curl, and it's causing a little bit of a rough surface. Let's try the Spindle Master. Anchor, bevel cut. Okay, the same thing. The curl is interacting with the cut. All right, so just by eyeball, I see I've got a high spot here. I'm going to turn it all the way over. The flute is at 9 o'clock. Just smoothing out these okay, a little bit smoother now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to redraw my lines. Set this up at 20. Want a 4, minus 4. Yeah. Okay. Now, use my other calipers. .47. So even though I was too aggressive on the parting tool, I had enough of margin for error that I'm okay. 1.47, 1.51, 1.43. So this side is much closer to the final dimensions than this side. So I'm going to work a little bit on removing that. Now with a light touch like this, it encourages a good cut. And this rippling that I have, that is the curl interacting with my tool, is being minimized. But it's still there. I could still run my finger over it and feel a little bit of waviness. All right, so I'm happy with this. Now what I'm going to do, make sure my ends are right. 1.0. Supposed to be 0.75. Yeah, all right, so I'm going to curve down on both ends. I'm going to use the spindle master for that. You could use any tool, spindle gouge, skew if you're brave or talented. .79. Okay, so my goal now, I've got everything roughly there. I can see a few bumps here, so I'm going to work on all the bumps the entire length. Try to smooth it out. Flute at 9 o'clock. All right, here's 4. I put a mark at 2 inches from the edge. I just do that to check to see if I'm symmetrical. You'd be surprised at how symmetrical this is, and if you're not, how easy it is for your eye to pick it out. A few hundredths of an inch for sure, maybe even thousandths, you can pick it out. When I was done with this, I had it leaned up against a bookshelf in my room trying to take a picture, and it looked out of round, or this end seemed skinnier than this. I turned it around, and I've decided it was an optical illusion, that this side now seems skinnier than this. So better to use a caliper to judge than your eyes. Okay, so right here, the 1.2, on this side, 1.2. Right here at the end of the flat part, 1.40, 1.43. So I'm not bad, not bad. I'll show you a trick. I could play with this a long time with trying to get just a little bit more off by cutting. But I want to show you a trick, and that is sandpaper glued to a block of wood. You hold it here, you'll guarantee that you're flat between the edges. I always use my fingers to check too. Sometimes the fingers are even better, more sensitive than your eyes. This feels very good to me. To make sure it's flat in the middle, I'll use this. Let me put the lines back on. One 1.45, 1.43, 1.40. So I got to get rid of, what's that, 3/100ths of an inch on this side. See how we're doing down here. 1.235, 1.25. All right, so this side is a little bit too fat. I'm going to try the tool for that. Famous last words. After this one, I'm going to just declare victory, even if it's not. Yeah, all right, it's close enough. All right, so I'm going to use this wooden block just to make sure it's flat in the middle. I got a little bit of a bump here I could feel with my fingers. Okay, that is 120 grit. Before you switch grits, you should sand along the grain. Okay, I'm switching to 180. Abranet in this case, just because it was handy. Light pressure with Abranet or you ruin it. Now I'm going to finish off the ends a little bit more before finish sanding. Now these ends, they can be, they will be touched up off the lathe to get the ends perfectly perfectly smooth and contoured the way I like. If I look at them, this is more tapered than this by eye. I'm looking at that, so let me just touch up the ends. Now finishing these, I don't go to extremely high grits. I read some thing on the internet that they stop at 150 even, because it changes how it interacts with the dough. It makes the rolling of the dough better. But almost everyone else polishes theirs to a higher grit, so I'm going to stick with that. This is 180. To go with, I'll go with I'm going to go up to 320. My walnut oil, you know, I'm 220. Now I forgot to, with the 180 grit, I forgot to sand with the grain in between, before switching. I'll do that now. I don't know if you could see that curl in here. It looks pretty cool. Perfectly smooth. Switch to 325. 320. This is walnut oil. Walnut oil, you have to buy wood turner's olive oil. You can't buy salad oil from Giant Eagle. Now this is heat-treated oil that removes the allergens from the oil. Okay, I'm feeling this, feels great. Let me get a piece of paper towel. Also, the olive oil that you buy at the supermarket will not cure, or 50-50, half of them won't cure, half will cure. You don't know which ones are which. This oil will cure over time. But in fact, the walnut oil isn't that protective. It's okay, but it's more for looking nice. When I turn this up to very high speeds, I'll get enough friction that it'll cure the walnut oil right now. Otherwise, you might have to let it sit for a week or two. Feel it's very warm on this. Also, it's turned brown because I had made no attempt to clear off the sanding sludge. Okay, that feels great in my hands. I think that's about it. I'll just part it off and we'll be done. Okay, this one broke off. Just touch that up with a little carving knife and some sanding paper. I think it feels pretty good. What I would have done if I wasn't trying to rush is I would have spent some time on this tool rest, smoothing it out. But the sandpaper cured a lot of the little bit of the roughing there. This is such an easy, simple shape that sanding, you don't have to worry about sanding as much. Sanding on spindles, you get into trouble if you have a lot of like coves and beads and stuff, and then you can screw up your turning by over sanding. But this looks fine. Okay, got rid of all the defects in the wood. All right, reasonably smooth. This is 180. Try 200 and 300 grit, 240, 320. Okay, so now this is brown aniline dye.
Brown what?
Aniline dye.
Aniline?
Yeah. Okay. So now you go back to the 320 and you sand off all the high spots. Should really dry this. It's pretty, gotta wait a minute. This is a water-based dye. Use heat. And then I'll take 320, go back to the same grit before. Put a little bit of oil on. Okay, so the curl looks nice here. I think it looks excellent here. So anyways, it's putting a little dye in and then sanding it off.